The story of revenge is a common one, especially in anime and manga. What is not always common, however, is when the one seeking revenge successfully counters every single thing that their opponent tries to do, and the seeker is so confident in winning that a shovel for the one being hunted down is brought to the scene. Welcome back to the Best of Battles, where we talk about the best and iconic fights that Shonen Jump has to offer. This time, we are talking about Kurapika vs. Uvogin of the Phantom Troop. This fight is a one-sided grudge match for Kurapika, as the Phantom Troop were the ones that murdered Kurapika's clan, the Kurta, and put Kurapika on the path towards becoming an Avenger and hunting down the Phantom Troop, starting in the York New arc. Before we talk about this fight, we gotta go over why this fight is occurring in the first place. There was once a young boy by the name of Kurapika, who was a part of the Kurta clan. He and his 128 fellow villagers all lived in a forest secluded from everyone else. Kurapika wanted so badly to leave the village, but was not allowed to before he was an adult. The reason for it is that the Kurta clan have a special power that allows their eyes to turn scarlet when their anger flares, causing them to think irrationally and gain tremendous strength, protect one another. One day, Kurapika and his friend, Pyro, found a hunter who was dying of thirst. They helped the hunter, and the hunter gave them a book about hunters in the outside world. Kurapika became infatuated with the idea of going out and exploring the world, but also to find help for Pyro's debilitating condition. Kurapika goes through a test set up by the village elder to test whether or not Kurapika can handle the outside world. After Kurapika passed, he set off from the village. 6 weeks after that, however, a female traveler discovered the remains of all 128 remaining Kurta clan members, with the narrator going into horrific detail about different things that happened to the clan, with the one thing being the same that happened to all of them. Their eyes were gouged out. The ones to have done it are a band of notorious thieves known as the Phantom Troop, who left a message near their bodies saying, "We'll accept anything you leave, but don't ever take anything away from us." This fueled Kurapika's appetite for revenge against the Phantom Troop, and leads into the events of the York New City arc. After the events of the Hunter exam arc, Kurapika was hired by the Nostrade family as a bodyguard for the daughter of the head of said family, while a notorious auction was taking place. Kurapika's deal was that he would get the Scarlet Eyes, the main symbol of the Kurta clan, at the auction. The members of the auction ended up being murdered by the Phantom Troop, the notorious band of thieves that murdered Kurapika's entire clan except for him. The troop's goal was to lure out the Shadow Beasts, as they have the ability to transport the items of the auctions. The Shadow Beasts, an internal organization to the Mafia that helps run the inner workings of said Mafia, appeared to take down Uvogin, a member of the troop, who wanted to fight on his own. Uvogin then overpowers the Shadow Beasts in a very effortless degree. Kurapika then steps in to take down Uvogin. Kurapika uses his chain jail to restrain Uvogin, showing that he crafted his Nen, the power system in this world, with the intention of taking down the spiders of the Phantom Troop, and so he effectively cannot lose against a spider. Kurapika restrains Uvogin, and through the help of the rest of the Shadow Beasts, was able to thwart the Phantom Troop that was watching the fight unfold and successfully capture Uvogin. Uvogin is then being tortured, but does not bat an eye. Instead, he tells everyone that he will let them live if they let him go. Melody, another Nen user who can tell if someone is lying or not, confirms that he isn't. No one is able to get anything out of him, and eventually the Phantom Troop sneaks in and frees Uvogin. Uvogin says that he has to hunt down the chain user, Kurapika, and the other troop members allow it, with Shalnark telling him to be careful. Uvogin then tracks down Kurapika, and the two decide to settle their beef away from everyone else. Before their proper bout occurs, Uvogin asks Kurapika who he is. Uvogin doesn't remember the Kurta clan when Kurapika told him about it, and Kurapika then asks him what goes through his mind when he kills, and in a deadpan expression, Uvogin says, "Nothing really." Kurapika is the one that is typically rather calm and calculated, but instead, he is the one that is being extremely emotional in his quiet rage. Meanwhile, Uvogin does not feel a thing when talking about his killing, like there is no remorse and it is merely a fact. During the fight, Uvogin attempts to understand Kurapika's abilities after Kurapika is left unscathed from Uvogin's attacks, with him thinking that his chains mean he is a manipulator or a conjurer, different subcategories of Nen. Kurapika goads him and overpowers Uvogin the entire time they are fighting. After Uvogin lands a Big Bang Impact, one of his signature moves, off on Kurapika, Kurapika takes this opportunity to use the restraining middle finger power that his chain jailed Nen ability can do. Since the chain off of Kurapika's ability was a construct made out of Nen, he was able to make it invisible to the naked eye. And since he also used real chains as a weapon, that would be the only thing that the enemy would look out for, which caused Uvogin to be ensnared before he noticed what was going on, effectively ending the fight. Kurapika reveals to a confused Uvogin that he made a Nen contract that allowed him to become a specialist, the rarest and strongest subcategory of Nen, that allows him to use all subcategories of Nen when his eyes are scarlet. Uvogin then remembers the clan that he slaughtered and tries to break from the chains. Kurapika then reveals that he chose Uvogin as his first target since he knew they'd fight alone, and that if the chains can trap the physically strongest spider, which Uvogin is, the others have no hope of escape. Once he realizes that there is no escape, Uvogin accepts his fate and does not budge as Kurapika starts to torture him for information on the spiders. A frustrated Kurapika then uses the Arbiter Littlefinger from the Judgment Chain, which pierces the heart of Uvogin, and if he does not answer his questions, the chain pierces his heart. With a smile on his face, Uvogin responds with, "Get lost, fool," and the ability activates, and he perishes. Now that we got through the overview of the fight, I wanted to touch upon the impact that this had on the Phantom Troupe. The Phantom Troupe is more than a band of thieves. They grew up in Meteor City, where they had nothing to themselves. A young Chrollo Lucifer was able to gather the crowd of kids in Meteor City to dub over tapes of a show they found. Those who watched it loved it, and it became rather popular. The group decided to continue to dub the tapes and decided to name themselves the Phantom Troupe. One day, a kid by the name of Sarasa went missing when they were going to perform for everyone. Chrollo postpones the viewing because he believes that she got kidnapped, as there had been a lot of child kidnappings recently around Meteor City. Everyone gets up and tries to find her, only to find her body stuffed in a bag, hanging from a tree. At that point, Chrollo asks the troupe to wait 2 years so that Chrollo can prepare and get ready to ensure none of this happens again, and that they will kill Sarasa's murderers. Uvogin and the rest of the kids in the troupe agreed, and 2 years later, the true Phantom Troupe was born. You see, to them, losing Uvogin was losing a childhood friend, a family member. He was one of the ones that were there from the beginning. Uvogin was the muscle since he was a kid. Losing him is like losing something that you never thought could happen, actually happen. Each of the troupe members handled Uvogin's death in their own ways, with most tightening a silent resolve to find Kurapika's identity and kill him. Nobunaga handles things poorly compared to the rest, as he let his emotions control his actions. He starts bawling at the moment of talking about Uvogin. He tries to fill the void by getting Gon, our series' main character, to join the troupe, and keeps him captive as Gon reminds Nobunaga of Uvogin, only then to later get duped by Gon and Killua, which I do not think would have happened if he was in a clear mind. Later on, Chrollo, the leader of the troupe, leads the Requiem of Death towards the Mafia while setting up their own fake deaths. While doing so, Chrollo mentions how this Requiem is dedicated towards Uvogin. Thanks to the sealing of Uvogin through Kurapika's chains, Kurapika correctly summarized that none of the other spiders would be able to break through the chains through strength alone. Through their fight, Kurapika was able to learn about his abilities and how they interact with the spiders, and through that was able to seal Chrollo's Nen, which decommissioned him up until rather recently in the story. This fight represents a lot. To the Phantom Troop, Kurapika killed their family, much like Kurapika feels about his Kurta clan being slaughtered. It is an endless cycle of hatred that is perpetrated by each other killing one another and determine whether or not whose feelings are strong enough to take the other party down. Even now in the story, both parties are on the Black Whale 1, heading towards the Dark Continent. Currently, Kurapika is dealing with the Succession War contest, while the Phantom Troop are dealing with the inner workings of the Mafia factions. But that does not mean the troop have forgotten about getting their revenge on Kurapika for Uvogin's death. They are currently on the hunt for Hisoka, who took out Shalnark and Kortopi, so when they all run into each other, it's going to be a bloody, chaotic mess. While on the hunt for the Phantom Troop, we actually see the Phantom Troop act more human than the likes of Kurapika. They all worry about one another and hope that they all survive, because they went through their suffering together. To Kurapika, however, he was forced to suffer alone. He did not have the ability to suffer with any other Kurta member because the Phantom Troop took that away from Kurapika. With Kurapika now doing the same and taking an additional person from the spiders to shoulder their pain. It is not until Gon, Killua, and Leorio all get involved that they start shouldering the pain for Kurapika, whether he likes it or not. Kurapika is a very destructive individual who does not care about his own well-being if it means accomplishing his own goals, so his friends had to step up to at least attempt to shoulder the pain in any way that they can. These set of fights are also a true introduction into Kurapika and what he is all about. Despite being one of our main 4 characters, this is Kurapika's first real battle, and it is a precursor to Kurapika becoming a deuteragonist to Gon. We see with our own eyes that Kurapika has the skills to hold the weight of the title of main character, so that when focus of the story remains on him for the rest of the arc, as well as the Succession War contest that is currently happening in the manga, things do not feel too foreign. Kurapika ended up beating the most physically impressive member of an elite and notorious gang of thieves that everyone fears. By doing so, he not only set himself up for approval in the Hunter world, but also approval in the minds of the reader, understanding that this Kurapika that we are witnessing is not the same one from the Hunter exams arc. Thanks to awakening Nen, Kurapika was able to adapt and unleash his true self, filled with a quiet rage. That rage is also something that connects Kurapika with Uvogin. Kurapika and Uvogin are both rather violent individuals. The main difference between one another is that Kurapika holds his rage in, not letting others see it, and allows him to lash out with the person not expecting it. Uvogin uses the rage that he has and expands upon it, using it to fuel his strength. But as shown throughout the second encounter between the two, we see Uvogin accept his fate in a calm and composed manner. He swore that he would not rat out the fellow members of the troop, and he meant it. Kurapika flips the role by lashing out against Uvogin. His rage pulled the final trigger on Uvogin's heart. Not only that, but this is a classic case of brain versus brawn. Kurapika, by himself, does not have the strength to take down a titan such as Uvogin. Kurapika knows this, which is why he made a Nen vow to make his judgment chain abilities stronger so that he can keep up with the spiders. Kurapika knew that he could not outclass the same people that slaughtered his entire clan, so he needed to devise a plan, which did indeed end up working, proving once again to us that Kurapika can handle any situation. He is not some B-rank hunter that got lucky. Kurapika performs here better than any other similar level hunter that we have seen up until that point. Just because Uvogin gets taken out of the story early on, that does not mean he was not strong. While I am sure he would also win against Uvogin, the fact that there is a discussion to have between Uvogin and Hisoka and who would win is proof enough that he is not someone to be messed with. The whole brain versus brawn concept also gets flipped on its head thanks to this fight as well. Kurapika not only has the brain, but the brawns too. He had to overpower the Phantom Troop in both aspects, not just one, because that is the level that we are dealing with here. We see this with Gon and Killua during this arc as well. You cannot beat a troop member in an average way. Even a powered-up Hisoka took care of Shalnark and Kortopi while their Nen was taken away from them, leaving them defenseless. I do not think that either could have done anything against Hisoka, but even Hisoka had to take certain measures to them and took advantage while they were weakened. The thing I like the most about this fight is actually the ending, I like that we get Uvogin's perspective during the fight, as he is trying to figure out the technique only to realize what is going on, and Kurapika explains the situation to him after the fight is over. It is a common trope in manga, especially shonen manga, to have the character explain what's going on to the reader to make it more interesting, but that also leads to the downfall of the person explaining their powers. But yet again, this trope is actually flipped on its head because Uvogin does not give up the troop. Kurapika explained his abilities and won the fight, but lost the verbal fight, something that he was rather known for up until this point. The death of Uvogin propelled the story and motives of the troupe and how they handled things from that point forwards, as well as helps Kurapika adapt with his Nen abilities and makes adjustments to the next time we see him again on the Black Whale 1 heading towards the Dark Continent. This fight excels at expecting the unexpected despite the fight effectively being over before it even started, and it still stands the test of time as one of the best fights that Hunter x Hunter has to offer. That's all I got. If you like what you heard, consider subscribing. Other than that, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Okay, bye.